Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzo.
This is our 100th episode. It has only taken us 8 years to get here, which is a little sad, but it is finally here, and today we are talking about The Dark Knight, released in 2008, directed by Christopher Nolan, written by Jonathan Nolan and Christopher Nolan, from a story by Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer, and starring Christian Bale, Heath Ledger, Aaron Eckhart, Michael Caine, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Gary Oldman, Morgan Freeman, a small little cameo from Cillian Murphy, Eric Roberts, and Anthony Michael Hall, which I always thought was interesting. I remember when Anthony Michael Hall was announced that he was going to be in this movie, everybody was like, oh, who's he going to play? Is he the Riddler? You know, it was like, everybody, there was just, I don't think anybody really kind of realized he was going to have such a smaller part, because, you know, it's Anthony Michael Hall. He was in The Breakfast Club, and he was in 16 Candles.
Right.
So I think people thought he was going to be a much bigger character than he was. But I'm very excited to talk about this movie. This has been one of my favorite superhero movies ever since it came out, really. And so it's been, you know, one of the movies I've been dying to talk about. I do think we'll do our hardest to keep this from being a 3-hour episode, but there's a lot to talk about for this movie. So, did you get to see this? I know you got to see it in theater,
right?
But did you get to see it like opening night or anything?
I don't remember, honestly. I don't think I did. I think I waited until I would imagine at that point, since I had a couple kids, I believe, and they were young. I probably waited until like Friday night is my guess.
Gotcha. So maybe you saw it opening weekend, perhaps,
I'm
but not.
Sure, I saw it the opening weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know how I wouldn't have tried to make that happen.
Yeah. I saw it opening night, and I can't remember if it was a midnight showing. I feel like it might have been, because they were kind of still doing that back then. But I remember I remember being kind of annoyed that night, because we went to go see it, and I was, of course, you know, the first out of my friends in line, and I think one of my friends texted me, and they were like, can you save 9 seats? And I was like, 9 seats? And so...
No, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. How do you... So I think there was one other person with me, and we somehow managed to save 9 seats. I don't know.
Wow.
We like draped jackets over it or something. I don't remember. But I actually miscounted and forgot that, like, I think my roommate at the time, Daniel, was coming too, and I forgot or something. And so we actually needed 10 seats. And so one of my friends ended up having to sit on the armrest in between 2 seats, which, yeah, was not fun for her. But
wait, did you say her?
Yeah, it was my friend Athena that had to sit like on the armrest between 2 people.
Are there no gentlemen left in this world?
I guess not. I think she
no
offered.
one offered.
But I...
You didn't offer, Justin?
Heck no, man. I had my seat. I got there early.
You're right. Fair enough. You were the one that held the spots. You're right.
I had to hold 9 seats for these people. I'm not giving up my seat. Yeah, I mean, maybe I should have, but no, my seat was the good seat out of the 10 seat or the 9 seats, and I was like, this is my seat. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like a midnight showing. But anyway, I loved it. I saw this movie, I want to say, I lost track of how many times I saw it, because I saw it again when when The Dark Knight Rises came out and they did a trilogy, but I think I saw this movie 7 or 8 times in the theater. And I want to say I went to the IMAX at least 3 times. If not,
I never saw it in the IMAX. I think I know I saw it twice. I don't know if I saw it 3 times.
Seeing it in the IMAX was a life-changing experience, because I mean,
really?
this was the first movie.
I wish I'd seen it then.
I wish you had too. This was the first feature film, I guess you could say, non-documentary feature film that was shot with IMAX cameras.
Was it? But it wasn't the whole movie, right?
It was not the whole movie, and they couldn't do the whole movie. I remember when the movie came out, they talked about how the IMAX cameras were just so loud that they couldn't. They actually had to.
So they had to have, I guess, music playing.
Well, they had to. I think they had to. He talked about like not having to do ADR with Heath Ledger. So I think what they did was they shot the scene with IMAX cameras, and then if there was any dialogue, like the bank robbery scene has dialogue, but thankfully those guys are all wearing masks,
right?
So you can't see their lips or anything. But I think what they did was then they did the scene again, maybe with regular cameras or maybe with no cameras, and they would get the audio that way. So that way they could kind of get the dialogue. I wonder if
that's why they chose the opening, the way that the Zimmer does the opening music. It's like that hum.
I don't know. I don't know why he chose that. I mean, I love it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, but I don't know why he chose
so let's talk about the opening of the movie.
Sure, the prologue. Yeah.
That was actually footage that was released maybe a month or so before the movie came out.
About 6 months before the movie, 7 months before the movie. It was released when I Am Legend got released in December of 2007. It was released in front of IMAX. And if you went to go see I Am Legend in the IMAX, you saw that prologue with like a mini trailer at the very end of it. During the previews. If you went and saw I Am Legend,
and it was the whole bank robbery scene, wasn't it?
It was the whole 6-minute scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you saw I Am Legend in a regular theater like I did, you just saw the first trailer that was released.
I gotcha.
And so I hate to admit this, but I saw the prologue for the first time, like a bootleg copy of it on the internet. And I debated for a long time. I was like, I shouldn't watch this because I want to see it like for real. But my curiosity was killing me, so I watched it. And then they ended up releasing it on the Batman Begins Blu-ray that came out shortly before the Dark Knight was released. And so I got to watch it in HD on PlayStation 3, I guess, at the time. And I think I watched it 100 times. I thought it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen.
Right.
Yeah.
We had no idea that this was going to be the opening scene either.
Right. I mean, they called it the prologue. So if you think about it, it would, it makes sense it would be the opening scene. But I do remember thinking, I think this is the opening of the movie. Right. But I mean, you could interpret it, the prologue as
could be the prologue as whatever
the prologue for the Joker story or something.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember thinking I think this is going to be like the opening of the movie. And so when I went and saw it for the first time and you see that shot of the skyline, I was like, yes. Which again makes sense. It's called the prologue. So, but
and at the same time, after you finish the scene, you know that everything after that is stuff you have, except from clips from the trailer, but as far as
new.
Yeah, as far as a consecutive sequence or a sequence of straight sequence, we had everything else was going to be new from that point.
Right.
And it's the reveal of the Joker.
Right. Well, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
That very first shot of him, where he just see his back, but he's holding the mask and stuff. That's the Joker. And I love Nolan just does a slow kind of push in on him while he's standing there on the corner, and then the car screeches into the frame, and the music kind of picks up at that point. Oh, it's so good. Everything about that opening scene is just so perfect. I
want this to be early knowledge as we do this podcast, especially for you. I have probably only seen this movie 8 or 9 times.
Oh, wow. That's how many times I saw it in the theater.
Yeah, I know. This is maybe like the 9th, maybe the 10th, around that area and that's still a lot for me to see a movie. Like, there's not many movies I've seen
that many
8 times.
Yeah, right.
But watching it again for this podcast is still almost like, and I'm sure to a degree it would be like that for you too. But yeah, I remember scenes and stuff as I watch them, but a lot of it was stuff that I didn't remember until watching it again. Nice. So it's cool to be able to see the movie and still have these. Not to mention, I think this is the first time I watched it with subtitles.
Oh, cool.
And I am what do you call it? Retain information of the storyline and dialogue so much better when I have subtitles on.
Yeah.
And to be able to read some of the conversations between Gordon and Dent was stuff that I had really fully
grasped.
Taken in, as to what was going on, like the Lao stuff. I really got to kind of embed what was going on there, because to me, I was just like watching scenes for the Joker so many times.
Sure, yeah, right.
And this is really, I think, the first time I took in the whole story as what it was.
Nice.
Yeah.
I debated not even watching this movie for the podcast because I had seen it so many times. I was like, I know this movie enough. I could just talk about it. But I'm glad I watched it, number one, because I love it. But number two, because it kind of, it got me excited about wanting to talk about it, because I took a lot of notes and everything. And so I've seen this movie. I don't even know how many times I've seen this movie. I've seen it, dozens probably. There was one time where I think I was flying. It was either from LA to Georgia or Georgia to LA, whichever. And I was going through the movies on the flight, and The Dark Knight was on there, and I was like, I'll just watch the beginning. And I ended up watching the whole thing on the flight.
That's what happened to me this time. Like a lot of times, when we'll do a movie and I'll watch it, like I'll pause it and go do something. Or I'll even put it off for like another day. Like I'll watch half of it one day and then. But this one I put in, and it was late, and I definitely wanted to watch The Dark Knight, but at the same time it was like after work and stuff. And I put it in and got to the end and never was like, I kind of want to take a break. Nope, just went straight through.
Yeah. Well, I didn't write this note down, but that was one of the things I thought while watching the movie was, and I'm sure I've had this thought before, it's not like this is a new thought to me, but it's just, this movie is paced so well. Like, every scene is just so, tight and concise and flows into the next scene so perfectly. Like, there's not very many scenes where you want to pause it to, take a bathroom break or go do something else for a minute. Because every scene is just kind of, the flow of the movie is just it's perfect.
Did you say Jonathan Nolan was a part of this?
He was a co-writer, yeah. So
that doesn't surprise me. Because I think Jonathan Nolan is
the stronger writer.
He's insane, yeah.
I
don't know. Like, I just know that, like, he did what was that one before Memento?
Well, Following was the only movie he ddid before Memento, and I'm not sure.
Was that the black and white one?
Yeah, I don't think Jonathan had anything to do with it. Jonathan did have. He wrote the short story that Memento was based on.
Right. That's one of my. I love Memento.
Yeah, me too. I like Jonathan Nolan. I think Christopher Nolan. I think they're both incredibly talented.
Agreed.
But I do think Christopher Nolan might come up with the stronger ideas, and then maybe Jonathan is
right.
Is a strong writer as well. And so I think together they are very strong. They did The Prestige together. Maybe that's what you're thinking of. They did that in between.
No,
Batman Begins and this one.
I've only seen The Prestige maybe twice.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that. I don't know. Will we ever do a podcast?
I don't know. If you want to hear us talk about The Prestige, let us know.
The other movie. So when I think of The Prestige, the other movie that pops in my mind is, do you know? Let's see if you know.
The Edward Norton movie?
Yep. The Edward Norton movie.
The Illusionist.
There you go.
What it's called?
I was like, you're the movie man guy.
Yeah. I didn't like The Illusionist. I actually... Wow, I think maybe probably because I saw The Prestige first. I remember...
I saw The Prestige first too.
Correct me if I'm wrong then, but I remember in The Illusion... I think my problem with The Illusionist was... He was performing this like crazy magic trick.
Well, hold on. Should we say spoiler, or are we even going to leave this in?
I can cut this part out if you want. But I don't think it's a spoiler. He was because I don't remember what the trick was exactly. But he was performing this crazy magic trick, and I think they never explain how he did it. And it's probably one of those things where it's like that's not the point of the movie, so it's not important.
maybe you're right, but I don't remember there ever being anything they didn't explain.
I just remember being disappointed in it. And so again, I haven't seen that movie in forever. I'd have to rewatch it. Maybe I would like it more now that some time has passed. But I do know I watched it probably around the same time I saw The Prestige, and I remember
they came out like pretty much the same month,
time.
Yeah.
Jonathan Nolan. I remember listening to a podcast with Jonathan Nolan, and he talks about how, that always happens in Hollywood where like Armageddon and Deep Impact, and
right.
Remember that movie Volcano?
Babe and Gordy.
Yeah, Babe and Gordy. Volcano and Dante's Peak. Like that just happens all the time. And he says now that he's actually been a part of it, he can say it's complete coincidence, which is crazy. But you would think one of those instances would be some studio heard about another studio.
Yeah, like, so two magician movies, coincidence. Two talking pig movies. That seems like one might have been somehow inspired.
Right. Two volcano movies. I guess you could say that's coincidence.
I mean, talking animal, but two talking pigs.
Pigs, right? That's true. I don't think I ever saw Gordy, to be honest with you.
I saw them both, and for whatever reason, I liked Gordy better
than Babe.
Wow. And Babe was the bigger movie. I think Gordy kind of took the seat.
I'm pretty sure Babe got a Best Picture nomination at the Oscars. So apparently everybody liked Babe more than Gordy, except for you. No, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen Gordy.
That's kind of me anyway. I kind of am the odd one out.
That's true.
Regardless. So, thank you.
Especially in this podcast. Well,
dress. Never mind. Go ahead.
Let's back up a little bit. Do you remember before the movie even came out, the like ad campaign that kind of they did for this movie? They had
where you heard the Joker laugh. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that was like the teaser trailer, which I do.
Right.
I love that. That was released a year before the movie came out, which I don't think they do anymore. I don't think trailers come out a year ahead of time anymore. But
keep going. You're starting to bring some. I'm feeling some.
They had a lot of like Harvey Dent stuff. You could get like I believe in Harvey Dent bumper stickers and buttons, which I've got. I had a couple of those. I might still have them. But they also had this crazy thing. They had like a website come out, and it had like a like coordinates in it. If you could kind of crack the puzzle, and if you kind of like figured out where the coordinates were, and you went there, there was like swag. It was like free kind of stuff. It was almost like a scavenger hunt type thing that they had done.
Cool. I don't remember that.
I remember, they obviously had different cities, and I think Atlanta was one of them. And I think I was working, so I couldn't go try to find it. Also, I don't think I was smart enough to crack that code. But I remember just thinking like they are going above and beyond with the
right. I remember they had like some of the like Harvey Dent like posters, and they had it like vandalized with Joker paint, on his eyes, and it was cool.
Very cool. Do you remember hearing when Heath Ledger was announced to be the Joker? Do you remember?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Do you?
Oh yes. I put my hands on my face. I was like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, I had only seen one movie of his,
and
it was like I wasn't really paying attention anyway. It was probably 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm pretty sure that's the only thing I'd seen him in, and I was like, they're getting like some wannabe heartthrob
to play the Joker
from the 90s to play the Joker.
I remember I was in my old apartment, and for some reason I was listening to 99X on my like radio. I think my alarm at the time, just instead of having like the annoying beep, going off for your alarm, I had it just go to the radio. And so I think the radio was on because it was my alarm, and I just left it on as I was kind of getting ready. And I remember, 99X, for those of you who don't know, was an alternative rock station in Atlanta that no longer exists.
Surprised it was still on at the time.
Yeah, this would have been like, I guess this would have been 2006 or so, probably. Maybe 2007. I don't know. I don't know when they probably shot the movie in 2007, so it was probably 2006-ish, or maybe early 2007. But anyway, it was the Barnes, Leslie, and Jimmy show, the morning show, and they announced it. They were, that's how I heard it. They were like, Christopher Nolan has said who's going to play the Joker in the Batman Begins sequel, and it's going to be Heath Ledger.
And before that, you were like, what?
Yeah, pretty much. I was
waiting.
Yeah, stopped what I was doing and
listened.
Long,
like 5-minute feeling instance of where they finally were like slow motion saying it.
And they said Heath Ledger, and I remember my reaction was, Heath Ledger? Like, I was just like, what? I just couldn't see it. I was like, he's going to be the Joker?
Right. Because you're automatically, so before this, of course, Cesar Romero.
Yeah, sure. But, and then Jack Nicholson. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say you have Jack Nicholson.
Right.
And yeah, it just doesn't make sense. But then I remember shortly after, it was literally within a day or two, I remember I was kind of talking to myself or friends or whatever. I didn't have any friends. I still don't, but no. And just kind of be like, you know what? It's Christopher Nolan.
Right.
Not to mention, I remember hearing very early on that Christopher Nolan, I don't know if it's true or not, but saw Heath Ledger's audition. I don't know if did he audition?
I don't know if he auditioned or not. He was, I mean, at that point, he was already an Oscar nominee. Yeah. So he might have met with Nolan and talked about it. Yeah, I don't know if he actually auditioned or not.
But I remember hearing that once he heard Heath Ledger's idea of what he wanted the Joker to be, that he like automatically just signed him up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to trust, Christopher Nolan and see what happens. And then, the first teaser, you hear that voice and that laugh. And I was like, wow, like, what is this? And this is actually probably going to work. And boy, did it.
Yeah, that teaser, I remember that teaser was exciting and disappointing all at the same time because you didn't see any footage.
Right.
You just heard the dialogue. You heard Bruce talking to Alfred, and Alfred's telling Bruce, some men just want to watch the world burn. And then you hear the Joker, and there was a couple of lines from the scene where he's videotaping the copycat Batman. And, his people will die, and then I'm a man of my word, that whole thing. And then he goes, and then he laughs. And so hearing the voice was amazing, but I was so wanting to see him. I wanted to see what he was going to look like.
That was the tease, man.
Because they hadn't released any, a photo of him yet. And I remember when they finally did release that first photo. That first photo was like that close-up look of him, and he looked scary.
It's the image that I have. I don't know if it's intentionally or if it's just on my part, but on Gmail.
For me?
Your profile picture
it's on purpose, yeah.
Okay.
It has always been that. It's been that pretty much since 2008. My ringtone...
that's the first image.
Yeah.
Is what you have, yeah.
I made the mistake. I have that's for kind of my, the email that I've had for forever. And then I have another email that is more kind of a professional email. And I sometimes every now and again forget which email I'm emailing from. And I emailed my old boss at the Weather Channel with that email one time. And he was like, your profile picture scared the crap out of me. No, but my text message ringtone is the Joker as well.
Right.
And that has been my text message ringtone since 2008. Right. I will never change it probably. So, yeah, I mean, it was... Seeing that picture, I thought, was incredible, and I still... You couldn't see his hair. You could only really see the face. And so...
You got to see the...
you got to see the scars a little bit, yeah.
Right, but even then, it's still... Isn't it kind of blurry? Like, it's not a crisp image.
It's... I don't know if it's blurry, but it's just... It's so dark. Like, it's...
Yes.
You can really only see...
Your imagination still has to fill in a lot of gaps.
Yeah, absolutely. But we got a taste of it.
Right.
And you were like, this is not the Jack Nicholson Joker.
Yes. Right.
We're like,
at this point,
is a creepy Joker.
Yeah. Right.
And so, yeah, I was stoked. And then, to be honest with you, that first trailer that came out, the same time the Prologue came out, that blew me away. That was the first time we finally kind of saw him in action. We heard more of his dialogue. And the movie, I mean, I was actually really surprised the first time I saw the trailer of how much Joker was in the trailer. I thought it was going to be mostly Batman and then like a shot of the Joker at the end or something. I thought they were going to really kind of...
Well, here's a question.
Yeah.
Did the trailer come out before or after he passed?
before, because it came out in December of 2007, and then he passed away in January of 2008.
That's so cool, because I remember thinking, when he won the Oscar, like how sad it was that one, he didn't get to see the people's reaction to the movie, didn't get to see, I personally, I think obviously he deserved the Oscar. I personally think that he probably wouldn't have won it.
Yeah, I hate to say that too, because I agree with you. I think he deserved it, and I'm very glad he won it. But because the Oscars are so political, and because they have a history,
and it was a superhero movie,
because they have a history of not recognizing superhero movies, I don't know if he would have even been nominated. Maybe he would have been nominated, because they nominated Johnny Depp for Pirates of the Caribbean back in 2003, so maybe they would have nominated him. But I don't know if he would have won if he had lived.
Right.
And I just think that's because the Academy can be a little bit snobby, and it's and maybe they're getting a little bit away from that, for the fact that Joaquin Phoenix won for Joker a couple years ago, but yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I think he absolutely deserved it. I think this movie deserved a Best Picture nomination, and I was very disappointed that it didn't get a Best Picture nomination.
Agreed.
But I wanted to say that when I saw I was actually acting in a play, a community theater play, It's a Wonderful Life, actually, in December of 2007 when that trailer came out, and even though I was already kind of acting, that trailer totally kind of reignited my desire to pursue acting, I think. And then a month later when he passed away, that really solidified, then the whole kind of idea of life is short and all that stuff kind of came into my brain, and that's really what solidified my decision to move to California.
Gotcha.
And I wish that spark had stayed lit as much as it was in 2007 while I was living out there, but
it's life, man.
That is life. Life throws you some curveballs sometimes. But yeah, I mean, he had quickly become, when they announced that he was going to play the Joker, I don't think I disliked Heath Ledger, but I don't know if I really considered him one of my favorite actors or anything. But by the time The Dark Knight came out, I had kind of gone back and rewatched some of his movies and watched a couple of his movies that I had not seen, like I'm Not There got released after he died, but I think before The Dark Knight. And I just was blown away by his performances. He's one of those actors, very similar to Gary Oldman, actually, who kind of can disappear into the character, who can become unrecognizable. And
he was a method actor, right?
I don't know, actually. I don't know if he stayed in character like Daniel Day-Lewis did, method-wise. But
I thought, didn't he say in interviews that he did that for the Joker?
He might have. I don't recall.
I thought he did. I thought he was...
He might be a method actor, or he might have been a method actor.
Well, at least for the role of the Joker. I don't know if he was in other things, but I'm pretty sure... I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was like that.
No, you might be right. Joker. You might be right. But he quickly became one of my favorite actors, and when he died, I actually was very upset about it. And I went and saw his last movie, Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, 3 or 4 times in the theater too. Really? You've never seen that?
Yeah, I want to. That has don't tell me. Dustin Hoffman's in it, right?
No.
Okay. I'm done.
I think you're thinking of Mr. Megorium's The Wonder Emporium.
You're correct. It's close, right?
Yeah, almost the same movie. No, this has Christopher Plummer in it.
Jude Law?
Jude Law is in it.
Yeah,
Johnny
I love
Depp
Jude Law.
and Colin Farrell. Johnny Depp, Colin Farrell, and Jude Law, because it's a very fantastical film, I guess you could say. And they came in and finished the role for him,
which was not
he passed away.
The original plan was to have him play
the whole thing. Yeah.
Right.
That movie deals so Heath Ledger had done all the real world stuff, and there's kind of a fantasy world element to the movie. And so there's kind of a secret, or not a secret door, but a looking glass type thing, Alice through the looking glass. And whenever his character stepped through, now in the movie he looks different.
Right.
And it makes sense, and it really, in my opinion, really works. But that was not
really
the original
cool.
intention. Yeah.
It's really cool that they were able to do that to the story. You know, obviously if it had been like a real movie, you couldn't have done that. And just the fact that it happened to be
like a drama. I think that's what you meant. Like if it took place, if it was like in real
Correct.
life. Yeah. Like,
correct.
It was a real movie.
Good. But yeah, you know what I mean.
Yes, I do. And I agree with you. I'm glad that they were able to finish it. I'm glad the movie was able to come out instead of having to be shelved and we never got to see. I mean, this would have been an amazing movie to end on, The Dark Knight, for sure, but I'm glad that we got to see one more Heath Ledger movie. And I did go see it in the theater a few times because I knew it was going to be, I at the time I was thinking this is going to be the last time I'll see a Heath Ledger movie on the big screen, even though I did get to see The Dark Knight again on the big screen when Dark Knight Rises was released. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
But a new Heath Ledger movie.
Right, yeah. It was the last time I was going to see a new Heath Ledger movie, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I agree. I think he deserved the Oscar 100%. And I'm very thankful that they gave it to him.
Yeah. I don't remember where I was going with that. What were we talking about?
I don't think we've gotten past the prologue, actually. And I was going to... One of the notes I wrote about the prologue was that his hair color changes in the movie, in the prologue. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. But his hair is brown throughout most of the prologue, and then once the bus shows up, suddenly his hair is green. Yeah. William Fichtner plays the bank manager. Excellent actor, William Fichtner. This is a movie that I think you and I don't know if anybody... We've done 2 commentaries before. We did Jurassic Park and we did the 1989 Batman. And I very much enjoyed doing those commentaries. I don't know if anybody listens to them. I don't know if anybody's actually ever watched the movie while listening to them, other than maybe you and me. But
apparently someone left a comment
like they liked our commentaries.
Yeah, it was probably like 7 years ago or something.
Well, maybe it's time to do another one. And I was thinking, like, maybe this should be a movie that we do a commentary.
Oh, absolutely.
If you want to hear our Dark Knight commentary, please let us know, and we will happily do one. The next note I wrote was Batman's mask seems bulkier in this film. The Batman Begins mask.
Yes.
And I wonder if that was because Christian Bale himself looks a little skinnier in this movie, like in the face, than he did in Batman Begins. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if the mask was I wonder if it was the same mask from the first movie and it just fit his face a little differently. But it does, and I don't know if it's that, or if it's we've just gotten so used to seeing the Dark Knight mask that now when we see the Batman Begins mask, it's like, wow, that mask is huge or big.
Yeah, I can't imagine them reusing the Batman Begins mask.
Well, you might be right. So maybe is not. Maybe it's not the same mask, and that's why it looks a little different because it's a different mold and stuff like that. That could be too. The suit still looks really good, and I like that scene with the Scarecrow and the copycat Batmans, and then Batman shows up. And
yes, and I love like the lines for that where like you see that Scarecrow knows that, and because the audience, well, it's a shadow, so you see the ears, and then he shoots the gun, and Scarecrow's reaction is immediately,
"That's not him.
That's not him."
Yep.
And then he comes up with the tumbler, and he's like, "That's more like it." And right. It's that the writing in this is so good. The acting is, and I just, it's such a fantastic movie.
That first shot of Scarecrow exiting the van too. I remember seeing that in the theater for the first time and not expecting Scarecrow to show up at all, really, but for him to show up.
Yeah, so
right at
obviously
the beginning of the movie like
he
that.
wouldn't have been on like IMDb.
Right.
Because I know that you were probably on that page at least 50 times before the movie came out.
Probably. Stupidly. You can spoil yourself doing that nowadays.
Yeah, maybe you didn't. But I'm sure he was not on there and that was a surprise for the audience.
It was a surprise for me, for sure. And I remember thinking it was really, really cool.
Yeah. I also picked up the first time the Catwoman reference.
Oh, yeah. It'll do fine against cats?
Yeah. I never thought about that.
That was the other thing I really liked about this movie. This is the first Batman movie where, well, I guess that's not entirely true. I was going to say this is the first Batman movie where the costume change was written into the movie, but that technically happens in Batman Forever. His Batcave gets blown up, and the only suit that survived was that sonar suit with the prototype with the sonar modifications or whatever it's called. So, I mean, technically that was written into the movie. But I'm thinking of like the 89 Batman going into Batman Returns. There's no explanation for why his suit looks different in Batman Returns other than it's a sequel and they wanted to upgrade the suit. So I really liked...
That was like the first time that would have even been an issue. So like upgrading the suit for a sequel wouldn't have even been a thing yet, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Because Superman didn't change his suit.
He kept the same suit the whole time, yeah.
So
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, his suit is different in Batman Forever, but we got a different director and a different actor, and then his suit is different.
And that makes sense.
Batman and Robin, because, again, we've got a different actor. But it's also different. I mean, those two movies, all four of those movies, I guess technically are supposed to be in the same universe.
Did it change in Tobey Maguire from Spider-Man 1 to 2?
Spider-Man 2? Not that I know of. If it was very small changes.
Yeah, I think they kept the same suit.
Yeah, I think they did too. So anyway, I just liked that aspect of it. I like the fact that they have him in the Batman Begins suit in the beginning of the movie, and then he's like, "I need to be faster. My armor's weighing me down," and they get him a new suit. They build him a new suit for the movie. I thought that was cool. I just thought it was a neat. I was thinking it was the first time that had been done, even though, like you said, there really hadn't been that many instances beforehand. But I guess I was wrong because of Batman Forever.
Let's talk about the fact that this is where Christian Bale decides to really change his voice noticeably.
Actually, and I was thinking about it, and it actually doesn't bother me until the end of the movie.
Right, because then he starts. He's kind of doing. It's like almost like it's not a whisper, right? But it's not like
super gravelly.
Yeah, it's not like loud, like projecting. And towards the end, I think that's when he starts to kind of do more of the projecting with the voice.
Well, there's one line in particular that I just don't like his delivery. I don't know. I wish Nolan had been like, let's bring it down just a little bit. And it's the part where the fairies have not blown themselves up and the Joker gets upset and Batman kind of overtakes the Joker and he says something about this city just proved that, it's willing to believe in good. And he's kind of out of breath. So he's like, this city just proved that it believes in good. And I don't like the way he delivers that line like at all. But that's the one time where it's almost nails on a chalkboard. But
the one time I really like it,
yeah,
is when he's yelling at the Joker, trying to find out where Rachel is.
I do like that one. Like that.
Where is she?
Mm-hmm.
I can't do the voice like you do.
And his voice is his voice is normal in that in my opinion the best scene in the movie, which is in that interrogation room.
So I really picked up on something in that interrogation scene more than I ever had before, and that was how naive the Joker actually is, I think.
Really?
Yes, I think he's really naive in that scene because I think he actually believes he can convince Batman to join him. I don't think it's not just that it's almost like not that he is, so he's obviously thinks he can convince him, but he almost has this sense of like a childlike mentality that Batman's going to almost be giddy, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, not reluctant at all, but like, oh, you've opened my eyes, of course. Like, we are made for each other. It's like, so he's obsessed with Batman.
I would agree with that. What makes you think he thinks Batman is going to actually
side with him?
Yeah.
The way he's talking about his viewpoint of society And he's like,
oh yeah,
he's like, he's like, you get me. Like, he's like, they don't get us. He's like, we're like they think we're psychopaths. You're dressing like a bat. I'm in makeup, but he's like, but we get it. So he actually thinks that Batman is just as, is on his level, and that he's going to be here, kind of being able to prove to himself, hey, let's team up. I
never have thought that Joker was trying to get Batman on his side. I think he does see them as like outsiders who kind of understand the system better than everybody else.
Right.
But I don't think that Joker is trying to convince Batman
maybe not
to join him or anything like that. I think if anything he's trying to break Batman, which eventually, he gets into a little bit more with having, saying, I thought you really were Dent the way you threw yourself after, and that really
You're right. And that's the obviously the main image that everyone has him, and what I had of him, and just watching that scene, I was like maybe getting that, but yeah, I think you're right. He really likes playing with people too.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
He's
such a character that no matter what, like, no matter how much you think, and it would have been so cool to be able to continue.
I know.
Other movies to get more of who this Joker is.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that they kept his alien. He doesn't have any alien. Like, they don't know who he is.
They don't know. He's not Jack Napier. They don't know who he is. Right.
And that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. If I ever did a Batman movie, never gonna happen. Probably a good thing for you guys
that as well. Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely make the Joker just a mystery.
Yeah. I remember before the movie came out reading about the movie and about how they likened Joker in this movie to the shark in Jaws, where he kind of just shows up, throughout the movie and wreaks havoc and stuff. And I remember thinking that was a really interesting description, and how that is kind of what he does. I mean, especially the first half of the movie, maybe, Batman is trying to take down the mob, and he's hunting down Lao in Hong Kong, and Joker does show up here and there, and he's causing more havoc really with the mob than anything. But he's slowly kind of, or actually quickly, really taking over and becoming, and it's one of the lines that I really like in the movie, where in the very beginning, when they're in the bank, Gordon holds up a picture of Joker, and Batman says, "Him again," and they say, blah, 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 blah. And then he goes, well, what about this Joker guy? And he goes, one man or the entire mob? He can wait. It's like Batman doesn't see him as a threat or anything.
Right. He has no idea what's coming.
Yeah, no idea what's coming. Yeah.
I remember that line, and I was thinking, oh, man, you don't know what you just said.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You have no idea what you're getting into. Yeah, exactly. I love it. So Harvey Dent is a very big character in this movie, played by Aaron Eckhart. And the Harvey Dent stuff, I think, is very loosely based on Batman the Long Halloween. Did you ever read that graphic novel? Yeah. The I Believe in Harvey Dent came from that book, I know. And I think just kind of Harvey Dent's story kind of, pieces of it were taken from that novel. That novel doesn't look like this movie at all, but he starts out as a very good DA and somebody who's trying to actually clean up Gotham and do, he's a good guy. And the note I wrote was that I guess Bruce got back into the good graces with all of his quote unquote pals after his birthday party in Batman Begins, where he called them freeloaders and sycophants and kicked him out of his house because now they're all willing to come and give money to Harvey Dent.
Right. That's hilarious. Yeah, Aaron Eckhart does a fantastic job. And I love how this is really the first time that I can remember that I was watching. So after it becomes Two-Face,
mm-hmm.
you can't help, obviously, but just stare at the scarred side.
Oh yeah,
right?
of course. Yeah, you can't look. Yeah, that's where your eyes go for sure.
And this time I was like, I kind of want to look at Aaron and see what his acting is doing while he's actually Two-Face.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fantastic. But as Harvey Dent, he's amazing too.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the things I was wanting to say was something that's so just impressive about this Two-Face is, one, when it was made, it just looked fantastic, the CGI.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It still looks good now.
Good. Yeah.
It does. Obviously you can tell more now that it, but it still looks really good. But what's so cool is the world that Christopher Nolan created for us as the audience is this real world, and everyone knows that. The Dark Knight trilogy is based in the
very
real,
realistic.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
But what's so cool is how much of a comic Two-Face we got, like a comic book Two-Face, but he never came out of the realism of the Christopher Nolan world either.
Right.
So it was like we got like a super realistic Two-Face, but he also felt comic booky, but it just felt real. And it was amazing.
I remember seeing...
And the Joker's the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the Joker fits in this real world, environment, universe, or whatever that Nolan created, but he also feels very true to the source material.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the same thing with Two-Face. And Two-Face is one of my favorite Batman villains, and he looks incredible in this movie. And I remember seeing something online, and it was probably fake, or it was like an early concept drawing or something, that Nolan decided he didn't like. But I remember it was a more kind of realistic looking burn, and I don't think it was a straight line, and I don't think it had like the teeth showing and stuff. And I remember just thinking like, it's not gonna look like Two-Face.
Right.
I just remember not, and so when I finally saw Aaron Eckhart turn,
it's in the movie, right? That's the first time anyone ever saw him, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they showed any.
No, he wasn't in the. Yeah, he was in the trailer when he's in Sal Maroni's car, and he's kind of holding the gun up. But so you could see just the kind of the outline of the burn, right? But you never, the reveal didn't come until the movie, right? And so when that scene, I love in that scene too, by the way, where he's like, say it, and he goes Two-Face, Harvey Two-Face, and he starts to turn, and the camera cuts.
Yes,
so you don't quite see it,
right? And then
he turns back, and then he finally turns to the camera, and you see.
I was gonna say because so after that, as he's turning, it cuts to Gordon, and then it cuts back to Harvey, but he's starting to turn back, so he's still like you can see the shadow,
just a little bit, but not quite there. Yeah,
yeah.
And so when he finally turns to Gordon, and we actually see it, I remember just being like, "That is Two-Face."
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible looking.
The eyeball, where you can see the whole eye, and just the tendons and the teeth.
And I love that like the teeth, that whole part of his mouth is gone.
He takes that shot.
Yeah, and then, I remember I cringed when I saw that the first time because he wipes the exposed jawbone there with the back of his hand. I'm like, oh my gosh, that would hurt so bad.
It must be the nerves must be dead. But then again, he's talking. I don't know.
Right. I don't know. I remember thinking, I'm like, oh, I still kind of think that when it happened, because it's also alcohol running into like that exposed wound. But yeah, no, I remember the one disappointment I had with this movie when I saw it the very first time was that they killed Two-Face. I remember being actually a little sad by that because he was not in the movie as Two-Face for very long. And like I said, Two-Face is one of my favorite Batman villains, so the fact that they killed him off, that left me slightly disappointed. But not anymore. I think in terms of the story of the movie and how his whole character arc and how Batman then takes the fall for it at the end and everything, it works perfectly.
Speaking of which, I didn't write this down in my notes, but I was thinking about this what's his son's name? Gordon?
James, actually. They call him Jimmy, but yeah.
Oh, right. So he's like, why is he running? And Gordon starts like explaining, and he's like, so we'll chase him.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how old is Jimmy at this point?
I don't know.
Maybe like
12?
7?
Oh, okay.
Is he?
I don't know. I can't guess kids' ages.
Maybe older than 7. Maybe not.
Maybe, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm like, you're telling him that that he's not a hero. Well, I don't remember the words, but it was basically like he's not going to be the hero, so we must chase him. And I was like, this has to be so confusing for this boy.
Yeah, it might have been.
The way he's described. I mean, I don't think it was like, the audience is supposed to just take it, but I remember thinking, there's some weird ways to put it.
They actually should have. This is a total joke. They shouldn't have done this, but they should have. Because a kid at one point he does say like, but he didn't do anything wrong. And he's like, he's the hero that Gotham deserves, but not the one it needs right now. It goes through the whole thing, and then it goes, he's a Dark Knight, and it cuts, to black and goes the Dark Knight. They should have cut back after it, like cut to black, and you see the title. It should have cut back to the kid, and he goes, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. I mean, it does.
No,
like,
it does, yeah.
But
to the little
funny.
kid, yeah.
Exactly. Oh, that's so funny. It's so funny.
I always thought it was weird, and I tried to find, I didn't do very much research. I just Googled it and didn't see anything, but I've always found it kind of weird that his wife's name is Barbara, because that's his daughter's name who becomes Batgirl. So I was like, did they name their kids James and Barbara? Like, they just named them after themselves? I mean, I guess maybe that's what they did, but I just always thought it was weird. So I searched, like, I Googled Batgirl to see, like, what was her mom's name? And in Wikipedia, it doesn't say. It just says she's the son of Commissioner James Gordon.
She's the son. I
mean, the daughter. Yeah, sorry. She's the daughter of, yeah, thanks. It's late. But anyway, I just, I wondered if that was Nolan's way of saying, like, Batgirl's not going to be in this movie, so his wife's name will be Barbara Gordon. That'll be like our little nod to Batgirl, but don't expect Batgirl in this movie or in any of these movies. I actually read an interview with David S. Goyer today, and he was talking about, they asked him, if Heath Ledger had lived, would he have been in the jail that Bane, in Dark Knight Rises, Bane releases all those prisoners from Blackgate Prison or whatever. And they're like, would the Joker have been a part of that? And he was like, wow, that would have been really interesting, but Christopher Nolan never wants to talk about what the next movie is going to be while he's doing the movie he's working on. He just wants to focus on this film and make this film as good as it can. And so by the time, The Dark Knight came out, Heath Ledger had passed away. So they had never really come up with any plans as to what, because Joker doesn't die in this movie, which I really appreciate. I thought,
right.
He dies in the '89 Batman, and they were very smart to keep him alive, because they obviously would have used him in the next movie.
They were like, after they watched, like, after his performance, they were like, we're doing that again.
Right, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so I'm sure they were gonna, I would have loved to have, in some alternate universe, it would be really interesting to see the third the third Batman Begins movie, the final Dark Knight trilogy movie with the Joker in it. Would Bane have even been in it? I was
going to say,
probably not.
I really think that the third one would have been at least half Joker.
Right, yeah.
Speaking of which, I was going to say, we've talked about the reveal of the Joker and all the teasing of the Joker and stuff, but we have actually not talked about Heath Ledger's actual Joker performance.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's for, like you said, when Heath Ledger was announced, the only Joker we really had in our mind, Cesar Romero, I don't even really, I mean, he counts for sure, don't get me wrong. But for us, it was Jack Nicholson. Right. Cesar Romero was like 20 years before we were born, and so Jack Nicholson was the Joker for us. And I remember thinking, like, that's going to be hard to top. Like,
to me, I was thinking
it couldn't be done. Yeah, right. And now, as much as I love the Jack Nicholson Joker, I feel like this is the definitive Joker performance for me. I think his performance as the Joker in this film is set the bar very high for any future performances.
I, however, don't compare them. I'm like Jack Nicholson is traditional Joker.
Yeah.
Heath Ledger is...
It's hard to compare them because they're different and they're both perfect in their own way.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say there's a definitive Joker for me. If I had to go for a definitive Joker as far as what I would define the Joker as, I'd probably say Mark Hamill.
Well, yes, that's true too, yes.
But as far as, the best Joker performance...
Live action performance, yeah.
Like I said, I can't really compare them.
It's hard. It's very hard. He's my favorite Joker now. And it was hard, for a long time. Nostalgia just is so... It grabs a hold of you, I guess, and it's hard to say something is better than this thing that you're so nostalgic for. And for a long time, Michael Keaton, which I still think Michael Keaton is maybe my favorite Batman, but with Ben Affleck's Batman, it's hard, he's so straight out of the comic and everything, and you're just like, he's pretty much a perfect Batman. He kind of starts to take the lead and stuff. And so for a little while, it was kind of like that with Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger. I was like, I really, really love Heath Ledger as the Joker, but I mean, Jack Nicholson, he was the Joker. But now I think enough time has passed and everything that I can say that Heath Ledger is my favorite Joker.
I don't not understand why you'd say that.
Said, I guess.
Thank you. I just went to the most basic way I could say it because that's all I could come up with. Anyway. So, yeah, the performance is just so... It's so... That's the other thing that's just kind of astounding is obviously before Heath Ledger's performance, it was, like you said, Cesar Romero does exist, but...
And he's good.
And yeah, I was going to say, because I watched the show around the time that Batman 89 came out.
Oh, yeah, I used to watch those reruns all the time as a kid, yeah.
So the Cesar Romero Joker, I definitely have a connection with as well.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I probably saw Cesar Romero's Joker before I saw Jack Nicholson's Joker.
Oh, I know I did, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, when you say amazing performance of Joker before Heath Ledger, you automatically thought of Jack Nicholson, right? Because there were only two portrayals at the time too,
right? And Cesar Romero's is great, and it works very well for that show and everything. But that whole show is very cartoony and comedic, and right. It's when you think about the Jokers that are taken seriously, I guess, or maybe take the source material more seriously, he doesn't quite fit into those categories because the show was made to be a comedy and it was made to be silly and cartoony, whereas Jack Nicholson's Joker and Heath Ledger's Joker are made to be more serious and dark and grounded and stuff.
Right. Obviously, people were like, kind of like you think, and I'm sure Heath Ledger was like, do I
want to do this? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like, how much am I going to bring from Jack Nicholson's performance? And he just came up with this. I mean, I don't know. I didn't read the comics. So was there any... Obviously, there's been different variations of the Joker. But was the first Joker I remember seeing being just completely out there was the one from the Batman
cartoon. Yeah.
Yes. Was that before The Dark Knight?
No, I think it was after. Well, actually, I'm not sure. No, it was 2004, so it was actually even before Batman Begins.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm wondering if, obviously that was the first time anyone, well, mainstream at least, I don't know about in the comics, but saw a Joker that was like that's not traditional.
Right.
And it's just really, as far as he went, but also being able to take, like he kept the purple suit. He's got the green hair. It's actual makeup this time instead of Jack Nicholson, where it was, nerve damage and stuff.
Right.
So, but he's just the charismatic energy that he brings, the psychosis, everything just is so believable.
Yes.
With his performance. And I was just basically where I was trying to go with that was just how far he went away from traditional Joker.
Right.
But made a Joker.
Right. And I'm not an expert with DC Comics by any means, but I think most of the time Joker in the comics resembles the Joker that, you've seen from the animated series or from the Arkham games, However, there was a comic, there was a graphic novel now, I guess, called Joker, written by, I just looked it up to make sure I was getting the name right. It was Brian Azzarello, I believe is how you pronounce it. And that's who wrote it, and it was drawn by Lee Bermejo. And it was the Joker in that comic, and it came out in 2008, and so people, I think, assumed that it was kind of based on the movie or maybe made in conjunction with the movie. But apparently it wasn't. It was a complete coincidence. But the Joker in that has kind of longer, almost curly-ish kind of hair, and he's got scars and like red. I don't think it's makeup necessarily. It might still be kind of the nerve, the acid, ace chemicals, whatever kind of thing. But he's got scars for his mouth. And I assume that's the first time they ever did something like that in the comics. And it just so happened to come out right around the same time as The Dark Knight. But I think I remember reading like with an interview with Lee Bermejo who said that, it was a complete coincidence. We had not seen, pictures of Heath Ledger or anything. It was just, two people kind of had similar ideas of how the Joker should look. But yeah, I had personally never seen the Joker look how Heath Ledger looked in this movie, because I didn't see that Joker comic until after the movie came out.
Right.
But yeah, the Joker and the Batman, I know you don't like that character style. So I've
never watched the Batman, but I'm pretty sure I've seen a scene or two with that Joker, and I was just, because he's not very coherent.
Not feeling it. Right. I don't know. I don't remember. I've seen a handful of episodes, but not very many. So anyway, to answer your, I think Joker has primarily been the traditional Joker, I think, in the comics and everything, in every iteration. So this was definitely a new take on Joker. So yeah. And then, of course, we got the Suicide Squad Joker. That is the definitive look of the Joker. No. I'm kidding. Gosh, I feel like there's so much we could still talk about.
I know, right?
Because we're already way over time, I think. But go ahead.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was going to mention that, you did bring up the Suicide Squad Joker. I feel like they went that route because they felt like they had to have such a drastic Joker just image that Heath brought. I think they went that route because they felt like they had to have the drastic kind of just difference that there had been between, they were like, let's just make a different Joker that we've never seen, kind of like Heath Ledger did. And that's my guess, that they were like,
for Suicide Squad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was, I know some of that stuff he kind of took from the comics in terms of a look. I know there's a comic that came out sometime probably in the early 2010s that had Joker with like a big tattoo on his back. I can remember seeing like the cover of a comic that had like he had like a big dragon tattoo or something. So I think he took elements here and there from different comics iterations of the Joker, but overall I think he was like, I want to have a Joker that we've never seen before. That's a lot different. And that he gave us that, but I don't think it worked.
No, and I don't necessarily like discourage that, but at the same time, I don't think people or studios should, or story creators, for comics or whatever, just people that are official people creating Joker stories, need to necessarily create a different Joker just to create one.
Right.
Heath Ledger's Joker was different, and everyone, from what I hear, when he was performing on set, just stood and watched in awe. So his Joker was different, but it wasn't because his Joker was different that it was good. It was that his Joker was good.
Right.
So
and
if
it was
the
true
Joker,
to the source material. I mean, I feel like because the Joker in Suicide Squad is almost so different. They make him crazy and things like that, but he almost seems more of like a mob boss than Joker, and whereas
and that's what they were going for,
right?
Whereas
the Joker in this movie is dealing with the mob and is taking half the money from the mob and everything, but he never, he is the Joker, and he's not really
right.
I don't know. It's hard. You get what I'm saying, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
One of the notes I wrote is I love that we get a little bit of Alfred's backstory in this movie. Hearing that story about when he was in Burma and they were chasing the bandit, I love hearing that story, and I like it gives Alfred some more depth and
yes.
We hear a little bit about how, because Alfred is always supposed to have been somebody who has been like in the military and very. He's not just a butler, you know what I mean? Like he has a very kind of rich backstory, and so it was kind of cool hearing about some of that in this movie.
Yeah, you also have the crew, the huge yacht,
right,
the entire ballet,
yeah.
and then Bruce has to leave, and he's like, "You gonna be okay?" What was his response?
He says, "If you could tell me the Russian for apply your own bloody suntan lotion." Yeah. I like how he's annoyed by that. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
One character we have not talked about yet is Rachel Dawes, who is now played by Maggie Gyllenhaal, played by Katie Holmes in the first movie. Very surprising to me the first time I saw it that they actually killed her off in this film.
Yeah.
I was not really expecting that. I mean, again,
and
makes complete sense with the story and everything.
I guess it wasn't before the books, but this was before Game of Thrones blew up, so people just were obviously not used to characters that they expected to survive just
dying suddenly.
Yeah.
Right.
It wasn't that common.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely a big surprise.
But again, like I said, I love it because it was such an emotional punch for Bruce, and it made Harvey into Two-Face. Yeah.
Yes, it made the motivation for both Bruce, Harvey. It made it so believable and real. You connected with it.
Yeah. So good. And she does a great job,
She does. She does a really good job.
She's really, really good as Rachel. I liked her a lot. And like I said before, you were right about Katie Holmes in the first movie. She does a great job too. So whether Katie Holmes had been in this movie or whether Maggie Gyllenhaal had been in the first movie, either way, I think it would have been really good. Yeah. It just would have been nice to have the same actor be in both movies, but
it doesn't bother me, honestly.
No, it doesn't bother me either.
Like, I can watch Batman Begins with Katie Holmes as Rachel and watch this with Maggie Gyllenhaal. Like, we watched Batman Begins not that long ago. Right. And I see them both as Rachel. Mm-hmm. And I somehow see them both as the same Rachel,
right, yeah.
This is Bruce's childhood friend
mm-hmm.
when we're watching Batman Begins, and in this, I'm like, that's Rachel.
Right, yeah.
I don't
know. Did you know that the scene in Hong Kong where Batman is going to, jumps off the building, they were originally going to do that practically with a stuntman tethered to a helicopter so that when he jumped off the building, basically they had a stuntman standing on the building and he was hooked to a helicopter. And when he jumped off the building, he like swung out. And so then the helicopter had to fly away from the building so that he didn't swing back into the building. And there's footage of them testing that out on the Blu-ray. And I watched it today and I was like, there's no way I could have ever done that. But the stuntman was like, it was the closest thing to flying he probably ever could possibly, do, because he jumps off that building and then the helicopter kind of pulls him away from the building. So he's essentially like kind of Supermaning it, away from the building. And I was like, that's kind of cool. Maybe I could have done that, but he just so easily just jumps off the building. And I was like, that's where I would have the biggest problem.
Yeah.
But
I'm terrified of heights myself.
Yeah. So. But they talked about how logistically it was kind of a nightmare with having helicopters in Hong Kong and the safety of it and everything. So they ended up doing it via green screen. The stuntman still jumped off of like a 120-foot thing, but it was all green screen below him. And then they ended up putting in the skyline. But Christian Bale did actually stand on the edge of that building in Hong Kong.
I was going to say, I thought I heard something about that.
He just didn't jump off of it.
Right.
But I was thinking that alone would be hard for me to do, just to stand on the ledge of that building and then kneel down. And that would be tough. Even though I know he's strapped in and everything. Like, they're not taking any chances.
Yeah. There's like still, a net down there.
My knees, I'd be standing there as Batman and my knees would just be shaking and you'd be able to see it on camera and they'd be like, no, you can't do this. I feel like there's so much more that I could talk about, but I almost feel like...
We need to talk about Lucius Fox.
Okay, yeah. The whole third act of the movie with the cell phone sonar stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to say this. So... Bruce decides he's going to turn himself in. He's going to say he's the Batman. And so it shows Alfred burning some stuff. And I don't know exactly what he's burning. I'm assuming it's like blueprints or like designs of his gadgets and all that stuff. But he says, anything that can tie back to Rachel or Lucius or something like that. So he's burning all this stuff. And I thought to myself, I never had this thought before until today. But when Harvey Dent steps up and he's like, take the Batman into custody. I am the Batman. I wonder if Bruce was like, I shouldn't have burned everything. Like, why did I burn everything? I don't know if any of it was important, but why did I burn everything? It's a good thing he didn't like destroy the suit and destroy the Batmobile or something, because then he would have been like, we've got a problem, Harvey. I'm not exactly going to be able to come save you.
Looks like you might actually go down for being Batman.
Sorry. Here's another thing I really want to talk about. So when the Tumbler... Okay, so we knew from the trailer that the Bat-Pod was in the movie, and the Bat-Pod looked incredible. And it's one of those things where I'm like, how did I not see it? But I remember I did not know that it was going to be part of the Tumbler until that moment in the movie where the Tumbler crashes and it says ejection sequence initiated and then the wheel starts spinning and it blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, here. And then when he, it ejects from the Tumbler and he takes off, I thought it was incredible.
Yeah. So that stunt that he does where he like rolls up the side of the building and turns around.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I saw that in the theater, it did something like bad in my eye, and I did not look good to me.
Yeah, I remember that. I can't remember if it was you or if it was somebody else, but I remember because I thought it looked. I mean, I just remember being like, oh, I think I was just so blown away by it.
Yeah,
that I was like, it was so amazing. I love because I mean right before he like hooks the trailer or the truck, he kind of shoots through a wall and you see the wheels spin, and I just remember being blown away by that. And then he flips around, he drives up the wall, flips around, and comes down. And I just was like, this is the coolest thing ever. But somebody told me, and it might have been you, that it looked bad. And I was like, really? And I'm wondering if it's just seeing it on a big screen, the CGI was a little bit more noticeable maybe back then.
Yeah, because right. And like, this is, how old is this movie now?
13 years old now.
So, like, to me, I don't know if I've even seen it really look bad in my mind since. And watching it today, or not today, but I watched it yesterday. It looked fine then too.
It's the same thing with me with the helicopter crash. The first time I saw it in the theater in the helicopter crash, when it hits the ground and like kind of rolls, I remember in the theater thinking, "Oh, that didn't look good."
Right.
But now I have no problem with it. I don't know what I was kind of expecting.
Right.
In the theater when the helicopter hit the ground, but it just looked fake to me the very first time I saw it.
Right.
And now I don't think it looks fake at all. But
right.
Yeah. But there was something about it that I just was like, the first time I saw it. But yeah. That whole sequence, the whole Batpod chase, the whole Harvey Dent in the SWAT car thing. I love the whole. What is that? What is that? A bazooka? Like that whole sequence is just incredible.
Right.
I will say, I knew someone who told me that you see the truck show up and it says it says laughter is the best medicine, but they put an S there.
Yeah.
So it's slaughter. I had a friend who said the first time they saw it, she went slafter. What does slafter mean?
Wait, was this in the theater?
I mean, she didn't say it out loud. She told me later, but
okay,
yeah,
that's funny. My thought was, I was like, laughter is the best medicine. Makes more sense for the Joker. I mean, slaughter obviously does too, but
right.
But laugh. I was like, why would he change it? Anyway,
here's a question for you that I thought of watching this movie, and again, had never really thought about this before. But do you think with the fairies at the end, he's rigged these fairies to blow up, and he's given them the detonator to the other fairy?
Right. At least, so I thought about this last time. I was like, he tells them that, but they don't even know if they push the button. Like, they might be blowing up their own, too.
Well, that's the thought I had today. I said, I could totally see the Joker doing that to them, telling them that they have the detonator to the other boat, and when they hit it, they blow themselves up.
Yeah, and both of them would maybe do it, so they'd all kill them, like,
right,
all of them.
Right. I wondered about that. I wondered if he actually gave them the detonator, like did it the way he said he did it, or because I think Joker would find that funny if they blew themselves up. He would find that funny.
Yeah.
So I wondered about that. There's no explanation in the movie or anything, but
right.
So
it's
just
the
theory,
fact that there's not an explanation, I would imagine that it was the way that he said. But if they had like gone into it later and been like, they were actually swapped, you would have blown yourselves up.
Right.
If they had said that, but the fact that they didn't go over it. But then, like, again, it is Christopher Nolan, and at the end of Inception, you've got the top spinning.
Right.
So you don't always get a
definitive answer.
Yeah. So maybe, who knows? But yeah, I agree. I didn't think about that. The Joker would totally find that hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Of the people being like, we're going to save ourselves. And then boom.
Right. And you just hear him laughing. You know what I mean? Like yeah, I could definitely see that.
Another thing that I frequently remember watching this movie is for the first viewing, opening weekend, you knew so many people were seeing it for the first time. Obviously some people were going back and seeing it again the day after, but most of the people I would assume in the theater were seeing it for the first time, and it was just so weird that yes, you're mesmerized by Heath Ledger's performance, but you constantly were thinking, and you knew the whole theater was thinking the same thing. He's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're watching a dead actor.
Yeah, it was incredibly bittersweet.
Yeah.
Because we finally got to see the performance. We had been teased of his performance back since December, and there was another trailer that came out before Iron Man, which I think was in May. And then this movie came out in July, and so we're finally getting to see his performance. But we also know he was gone. Yeah, and that was it was heartbreaking, really. Yeah. I mean,
but at the same time, it was so cool,
right?
Because it was heartbreaking, but you got to see how amazing he did, and you were just like,
right.
He went out with a bang.
It made for sure. It made you so excited for the movie and for the performance and for everything, but then at the same time you just were so sad that because I mean just not just even in terms of getting to see him as Joker again, but just I mean he was 28 years old. Just in terms of where his career would have gone if he had not died. I mean he would be 42 I think now. I mean, the amount of movies he could have put out between now and then, and the incredible performances he would have done. I mean, it's just a shame. It is super heartbreaking. Yeah. I mean, he was an incredibly talented actor and gone way too soon. And it was very. I remember. I don't know if I had. I probably did have those thoughts the very first time I saw it, but I know I had those thoughts seeing it the other times. And I remember I actually got to know the movie well enough that I knew the last shot of him, and I remember thinking at one point no more Heath Ledger in this movie. It was just it was just a bummer. He was so mesmerizing to watch, still is in this movie, and I wish there were more scenes of him in the movie, honestly, because he's just so good.
And there are so many scenes of him in it,
right?
Already. But not only that, but a movie to this scale, it was Batman. Right. It was the first time we had a Joker in cinema. So everyone already was hyped about this movie. We lost Heath Ledger, and then so it was just a big, almost like a world kind of experience of everyone getting to see this creation of the Joker that no one had ever even, would have thought to do.
Right.
And it was just such a cool, but like you said, bittersweet. That's the perfect word for it. It's such a bittersweet experience.
There's a documentary called I Am Heath Ledger, and they interview a lot of his friends and family members and show some of I guess he used to take a video camera around, and so there were some home movies and stuff that he had shot and stuff. And one of his friends was talking about how it was, he found out that he was going to be playing the Joker, and I think they were talking, and he was like, his friend was like, "Man, I don't know how Jack Nicholson. How are you gonna do it?" And then he said, he just heard this voice go, "You want to see how I got, or do you want to know how I got these scars?" And he was just he said he got chills. It was he just saw a glimpse of it before anybody else kind of really got to, because he had been working on it and everything. And I remember thinking that was pretty cool. This movie also made Titanic was the #1 movie for the longest time. Domestically, I don't know about worldwide, but for domestically, it was the #1 movie since '97. It had been the #1 movie, and no movie had really come close to passing it. And The Dark Knight didn't pass it, but it got real close. It ended up becoming the #2 movie, and it was the #1 movie for weeks, which had not been done in forever. And I personally think #1, it was because it was such a good movie. But also, I think a lot of people went to go see it because they knew that it was the last, potentially, because Parnassus was kind of up in the air whether that was going to get finished or not, I think, when the movie kind of came out. Because that movie didn't come out till 2009. So I think it was also people were like, this is the last Heath Ledger movie. And I think maybe people went to the theater to go see it for that reason too. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But that movie, I was amazed and also happy that it made so much money and became the #2 movie. It's now number 12. I mean, all the Marvel movies and Star Wars movies have knocked it down. Right. But and also I used to be able to go to the Box Office Mojo and adjust for inflation, but it can't do that anymore. But yeah, I remember it came real close to overtaking Titanic, and I really wanted it to, but I don't think it ever did. I love that whole sequence when, Batman has figured out where the Joker is and he goes to that building under construction. And it's the one time we've seen so far in a live action movie, correct me if I'm wrong, where Batman has the wide eyes. That actually took me off guard for this viewing. I was like, oh, that's weird. Yeah. It doesn't look like it does in like the comics and stuff. But I did like that they kind of did it as a little bit of a nod, I think, towards the comics. And I like that it's it gives him that sonar view and everything, which is kind of cool. But I love when he realizes that the clowns are the hostages and the doctors are the terrorists or whatever. Before the SWAT team does, and so he's having to kind of fight the SWAT and save the clowns all at the same time. Like that whole sequence, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah, there was so that was another idea that I was like, man, that's just so cool that like the audience first time watching that, and even me, I forgot watching this time. I'm like, you don't know that the clowns are the hostages, and then it's a reveal, and then you have the suspense of being an audience member knowing that the clowns are hostages and innocent people, and that now the SWAT team is not an enemy, but they have to be...
Right. They have to be stopped.
Yes.
Because otherwise they're going to kill innocent people.
Yes. It's just so... Like, there's so many amazing storytelling details in this movie. It's just everywhere.
I agree. Yeah.
It's just... Nolan brothers, like, wow. And Goyer, too.
Yeah, yeah.
Just... phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. We didn't really talk about Hans Zimmer or James Newton Howard and the score for this film. We touched on it briefly with the prologue, and that kind of just, like you said, kind of hum. It's like, I don't know if it's violin or what it is, but it kind of slowly builds.
But it's insane suspense building, and it's just brilliant. Yeah. I don't think ever really heard a score like that before.
Right.
Whereas like almost like noise was
right
was the music, and it just worked incredibly well.
Yeah.
And then you have and they use it also in the scenes where the Joker's that's something we didn't talk about, the fact that his story for the scars is like obviously neither of those are probably true.
Right, yeah, exactly. I remember I'm glad you brought that up, because actually that's another time in the movie, the very first time I saw it, where I was thinking like, so the very first time is when he's talking to Gamble, and he goes, my father was I forget what he says, a drinker and a fiend or something, Yeah. And so he's going into this backstory, and I remember watching it for the first time going, oh, I kind of almost wish they weren't giving Joker a backstory like this. I kind of like it better where we don't know anything. And then you see the scene later with Rachel, and he tells a completely different story, and I just was like, I love this.
Yes. It was like, wow, I have no idea who the Joker is.
This is incredible. Yeah, I was like, this is so much better than what I was thinking. Yeah, it's I don't know who came up with that, but whoever it was, kudos, because that was incredible. And I love that he's about to tell Batman at the end. That's another line I don't totally love, is when he tells Batman, he goes, speaking of which, you know how I got these scars? And he goes, no, but I know how you got these. It's like, not my favorite line.
That was the first time I ever actually like heard that line.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, oh, wow.
But the whole, that scene with Gamble, where he goes into that story, the scene with Rachel, that whole dinner scene, I love his performance in that, where he grabs that guy's head and he's like, have you seen Harvey? No. He's kind of, and he grabs the drink and it all goes out of the glass, but he still takes a swig of it.
Actually, no, he chucks it.
Chucks the glass?
The contents intentionally.
Well, he grabs the glass and brings it towards himself, and it all flies out. But then he takes a drink of it, and it's empty. But it's empty.
I think he takes the glass, throws the liquid out, and then maybe I'm wrong. I mean, you've seen it so many more times,
right?
So maybe you're right. But anyway, I thought I saw it differently. But we also didn't talk about really Christian Bale.
That's true. We just kind of made fun of his voice a little bit, but aside from his voice towards the end of this film, I think he does an incredible job as Bruce Wayne and Batman.
Right. I agree, but I also feel like, and it's not Christian Bale's fault, but I can't really this is Joker's movie.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like Batman is a supporting character.
It pretty much is, yeah.
In this movie. But yeah, he does a very fantastic, Christopher Nolan universe Batman that he did in Batman Begins. He brings it back to this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the costume, too. It's not my favorite Batman costume, it's very tactical looking, I guess you could say. The Dark Knight costume. But it's still cool, and it works very well for this movie and for this trilogy. But it's more realistic.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's obviously them trying to get to the, well, we've got a billionaire here that
realism.
Has,
yeah.
They're like, he's gonna be in this stuff,
right? Real quick, there's one other character, or actor, really, I really wanted to mention, which was David Desmelchian, who plays Thomas Schiff. He's one of the guys that is in the honor guard during the funeral for whose funeral is it?
Dent.
No, not Dent's. It's when Joker tries to shoot the mayor and they supposedly shoot Gordon, I'm trying to think of who. Oh, it's the commissioner, the police commissioner's funeral.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. The guy that is captured by Harvey Dent, the actor is David Desmelchian, who there's a fairly, that was the first time I'd ever seen him. And he's gone on to be in the Ant-Man movies, and he's been on the Flash TV show, and he's actually going to be Polka Dot Man in the new Suicide Squad movie coming out, which actually might be out by the time this episode goes up. But yeah, he's in the new Dune movie too, which I cannot wait for.
Yeah, I still need to read that book. It's actually on my nightstand right now, waiting for me to open.
Comes out in October. You got to read it. Yeah, and he was in Blade Runner 2049 and Prisoners, and so yeah, he's a good actor, but he's usually kind of these supporting roles. But this was the first time I'd ever seen him, and the first time I saw the movie, I didn't hear, he said the name Thomas Schiff, but I wasn't really, the name didn't mean anything to me, and so 2 seconds after he said the name, I was like, whoa, what was that name? And I could have sworn it was Jervis Tetch, which is the Mad Hatter. I thought it was a Mad Hatter reference.
Gotcha.
And so I remember seeing the movie the second time, being waiting to hear it, and he was like, Thomas Schiff, and I was like, oh, no, I guess I was wrong.
But every time you watch the movie now, do you when that part comes up, are you like, oh, this is the part where it's not
not Jervis Tetch. Right,
yeah.
No, I mean, I've kind of accepted it, I guess, and moved on, but yeah. Well, we could talk about this movie for hours, but I think maybe it's about time to wrap it up, since we've been going a little long. We're trying to keep these episodes under an hour, and this one we failed miserably. But that's all right. It's our 100th episode. I think we can go a little long, especially for this movie. But if you would like to hear us do a commentary for it, and whether you don't want to hear us do a commentary for it, we might do one anyway. But if you want to hear us do a commentary for it, please let us know. But, John, let's rate this film. This movie, I love this movie a lot. And it's actually my second favorite movie of all time, just under Jurassic Park. It was for a long time. I debated on it being my favorite movie of all time. But I kind of, when I really thought about it, I was like, nah, the magic and nostalgia and everything for Jurassic Park wins out. But I love this movie, and I really can pretty much watch it any time. And if it's on or I start it, I pretty much have to finish it. It's just,
I was gonna say, yeah, like you were saying earlier, if you start it, you're at least gonna want to finish it.
Right? Yeah. And, yeah. So for me, it's a darn near perfect film, and I would give it 5 out of 5 Batman masks.
I love it. Awesome. I can't really add much to that. Heath Ledger's performance, just, you can't really, and there's people out there, to each their own, but that say that the performance is overhyped and everything, and I can see how some people might have been spoiled from hype and stuff, but his performance is just off the chart. And combining that with Nolan's talent of directing and storytelling and just everything was just... Obviously, the expectation for the film before it came out was
incredibly
so high.
Yeah.
And it went over. Like,
it really did,
everything was just... Nothing was like, that's about as good as I expect. Everything was just always wowing, and just the whole, especially the first viewing, the whole movie, you were just glued to everything.
Yep.
That's something I also wanted to bring up earlier, was that we were talking about the score, and this was really the first time seeing the first viewing of this was when the Batman theme stuck out to me.
Right.
And I was like, oh wow.
That's the Batman music.
And it gave me chills.
Yeah.
So yeah, I give it 5 out of 5 Batman masks as well.
Awesome. Well, we'd love to know what you think about The Dark Knight. You can always leave us a comment on cinemaheroes.com. You can comment on our Facebook page, facebook.com/SM and SM podcast. You can tweet at us or leave us a comment on our Instagram, which the handle is both Cinema Heroes. And if you're watching this on YouTube, of course, leave us a comment. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'd love to hear from you any way you want to reach out to us. And again, let us know if you want us to do a commentary on this film. We might do it anyway, but if you want to hear it, I'd love to know. But otherwise, I think that about wraps it up for this incredible film. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.